In today's video, we're going to talk about 3 retirement studies that will likely surprise you, but also be quite informative and show you how to build a stronger retirement. The first paper is called Alpha, Beta, and now Gamma, and is all about how building a better plan can result in higher retirement income. Now, biasly, I love this paper because it matches up with our philosophy here at Safeguard. Generally speaking, if you separate out retirement finance into 2 camps, investing and planning, what you'll find is so many advisors and so much commentary is focused on just the investing side. And this makes sense. Investment outcomes will largely decide your retirement. But the problem is we can only do so much to affect those investing outcomes. Planning, which is a close second in importance, is something that we can affect in a big way, and this paper backs this up. Now, Gamma is the term this paper uses to value the impact of good financial planning decisions. And they have 5 factors they discuss in this paper that can improve outcomes. First, we have something called asset location. Now, we've discussed this topic on this channel before, but the central idea is that you want to take certain investments and put them in certain accounts because they are more tax efficient within those accounts. For instance, you generally don't want high dividend stocks in your taxable account because of something called dividend tax drag. On the flip side, you also want higher growth assets in your Roth account because that money will grow tax-free. We found in our research that this adds anywhere from 1/4 to nearly 0.5% per year of added performance over someone's lifetime. This paper finds something very similar. Now, they look only at a taxable account and a 401k together, but find that the strategies that we talk about frequently, like taking from your taxable account first, in conjunction with proper asset location, adds value relative to other approaches. From there, the next 4 items I'll explain conceptually, and then we'll give the ending summary of this paper. Now, total wealth allocation is the idea that we're going to match someone's individual allocation to their specific situation by taking into account things like Social Security turning on at different points, pension income, or other income streams that they might have. Think of this like personalizing an allocation rather than just using a general static 60-40. Annuity allocation speaks to the idea that as part of the conservative portion of someone's portfolio, you're going to go out and purchase a single premium immediate annuity, or a SPIA. This is designed to both increase peace of mind, but also can improve worst case scenarios. Now, right now, payouts for a married couple age 62 are well above 6%. Now, I'm not saying that everybody should go out and purchase a SPIA, but it should be something that I think a lot of retirees look at as an option. Next, dynamic income is a framework whereby the amount of income you are taking adapts to the market environment. We are huge proponents of dynamic income here at Safeguard, and it's easy to see why. For one, it's been proven to improve outcomes across the board. When your investment portfolio is doing well, you are able to efficiently take higher income, and you should do so if you're wanting to utilize your wealth for your life. Well, when the investment portfolio is doing poorly, adjustments down can maintain long-run sustainability. For someone wanting a very simple dynamic income approach, following the RMD formula can be an effective and relatively simple approach that you can use to develop a dynamic income strategy. Then liability matching is this idea that in each year you are going to match your retirement income needs to your short-term portfolio allocations. We've talked about this concept in the form of a liquidity plan before, where each year you are matching income to safety needs. Now, what this paper found was by matching up these 5 gamma factors is that they can be quite impactful and substantial in improving retirement income efficiency. Better planning with these factors led to a 22.6% increase in retirement income. Now, more impressive than that is the standard error in these outcomes. The standard error as a whole was less than 1.5%, leading to this being a quite dependable way to improve retirement outcomes. And if you were someone who wanted to understand this number relative to a performance equivalent return on your portfolio, these factors would lead to an almost 1.6% higher arithmetic return annually. All of this goes to show the importance and the robustness of the planning part of retirement planning. You really don't need more money. You just need a better plan. The next study we're going to discuss is on the softer side of retirement. And this study is a giant 80+ year study that has been the origin of multiple research papers and multiple findings. It's a Harvard study started in 1938, and started with 724 men and then tracked these men through their entire life to find correlations on what makes a person truly happy. Now, although this study started out by looking at just men, and largely white men to that point, it has since been expanded to include women as well as other races. It's a study that continues to build. All of these findings published are generally only published if the findings can be corroborated by other studies that find similar happiness variables in similar veins. For those wanting to read more in depth about the insights from this study, I have 3 books on the left-hand side of the screen that have been published from this long-running happiness study. Within one of these books, there are 3 happiness myths that this study dispelled. The first is that you can be happy all of the time. Even among the happiest of individuals, it is something that oscillated day to day. Now, this makes sense and I find can also be quite comforting. There's nothing wrong if you're having a bad day. A bad day is just that, a bad day. It doesn't mean that you are having a bad life or a bad year. And the study goes to show that happiness, contentment, and in general mental health is a muscle that we constantly need to work, or it will atrophy like any other muscle in the body. Second, across the board, happiness was generally uncorrelated with wealth. Some of the wealthiest in the study were actually the unhappiest in the study. And then a companion research paper to this study found that happiness is quite in our control. About 40% of happiness is genetic, 20% is due to circumstances, and the other 40% was completely in our control. So dispelling these myths was interesting in and of itself, but the findings about what ultimately contributes to happiness was equally informative. Throughout this long-running study, 2 trends kept coming up. Health and relationships are the 2 most important variables, bar none, in contributing to happiness. And surprisingly, they are quite intertwined. Now, I'm not going to go too far into health because it's a topic we've covered in other videos and it's a topic that you don't need to hear me rant more about. But I will leave you with one visceral stat about health that I haven't been able to get out of my head since reading it. We know smoking is bad for you, right? Well, if you are a smoker, you have a 40% chance of all-cause mortality compared to a non-smoker. So that's a pretty substantial risk factor. But what if we compare cardio health from the healthiest of individuals to the unhealthiest of participants? We will use VO2 max for scoring, which measures maximum oxygen consumption. Someone in the lowest 20% of cardio fitness has a 400% higher chance, yes, 400% greater chance of all-cause mortality relative to someone with elite cardio health. If we take this at face value, it seems to be the case that being in poor shape is far worse for you than smoking. Sitting isn't the new smoking. In fact, it's worse. Now, note this exact figure wasn't taken from this study, but rather from Peter Attia's book, Outlive. That being said, I found the relationship data from this Harvard study just as compelling. Now, there are a lot of stats on relationships, but I picked a few that I thought would apply to this audience. First, loneliness was found to be more dangerous than obesity, increasing all-cause mortality by 26% in any given year. On the flip side, within this study, the most happily partnered participants reported no loss in happiness well into their later years, despite suffering from other conditions and chronic illness, physical pain, for instance, showing that strong relationships and support systems not only contribute to health, but can be a buffer against suffering. For those in the accumulation phase, this study also found that growing up in a household that they labeled as warm and had caring parents led to an annual income increase of nearly 6 figures throughout their life. In one of the books detailing this study, this author lays out a decathlon of goals for old age and happiness. Well, if we take a look at a bunch of these factors and what actually attributes to the highest happiness score later in life, the most significant attributions came from relationships and health. This goes to show the importance of non-financial factors in retirement planning. Wealth is great, but it's nothing without your happiness. The third and final study we're going to talk about is one that might be quite compelling for certain viewers watching this video because it completely reverses some common retirement assumptions that we have. It reverses some traditional ideas that we have. So in retirement investing, there's a sort of puzzle that needs to be solved. You need a certain level of income throughout your retirement, But because of the assets we start with in retirement, as well as inflation, we often need to grow our assets in order to succeed. Certain investments like stocks can be quite risky in a 1-year time frame, but are incredibly safe when we look at a 20-year time horizon. Cash, on the other hand, is kind of the opposite. It is quite safe over the next year, but downright risky over the next 20 years because of inflation eating away at its purchasing power. Furthermore, the growth or losses that we see in the first 5 years of retirement are the most important. Nearly 50% of the outcomes that we experience in retirement can be explained by our portfolio returns within these first 5 years. Now, the most common retirement allocation strategy is something we call a traditional or target date glide path. As you age, pretty simply, you add more safety. You may start out retirement with a 60-40 portfolio, but then over time end up at a 20-80 portfolio. In this final paper, we're going to talk about this entire strategy is reversed. Instead of ramping up to safety as you age, you actually start out retirement with more safety, and then you ramp to growth instead. This is called a reverse equity glide path, and the paper we'll be citing was written by Wade Pfau and Michael Kitces. First, from a numbers standpoint, we see that the reverse equity glide path delivers better results than both a traditional glide path as well as holding a static allocation. Success ratings on a 30-year retirement rise by 1 to 5% depending on what you're comparing to. Now, this is just on a basic withdrawal rate simulation, but the results are arguably even more compelling when we start simulating more of a real-world environment. For instance, let's take Social Security and say we are delaying our benefits. Now, this creates a retirement planning hurdle because while we are delaying, well, our portfolio needs to sustain our retirement, which can not only open us up to more risk, but amplify that sequence of return risk that we talked about earlier. Well, by adding more safety in the first phase of retirement, we can more confidently navigate this bridge, knowing that a 2008 type event would probably barely affect us. Then once Social Security turns on, we are already on our way to increasing growth within our portfolio at the same point where we need less income or less retirement income from our portfolio because we have that larger Social Security benefit. Also, when we think about wanting to spend more in the first decade of retirement or follow the retirement spending smile, we see that once again, for the same reason as the Social Security bridge example, more safety here can be quite attractive. It can allow you to maintain higher spending regardless of the current economic conditions. And most importantly, throughout all of this, I think the biggest meaningful benefit isn't even financial, it's emotional. The transition to retirement can be a downright difficult one that no one is prepared for. You go from earning income to now having to live off your own wealth. You go from working 8 hours a day to now having 8 hours of extra time freedom. In retirement, when you see a $100,000 loss in your portfolio, you don't think, oh well, I'll just work a little bit longer and I'll be fine. You now think, holy crap, I just lost a year's worth of income. Now, I find that the rising equity path allows you to ease into retirement a bit easier. It decreases the number of shocking transitions to allow retirees to adapt and get used to retirement in a safer way. Now, this peace of mind advantage cannot be valued, but that doesn't mean it's not real. And so I share this last study because I find that the traditional way of planning for retirement forces you to fit into a box. It forces you to adapt to the traditional way of planning rather than having a plan that adapts to you and your goals. A personalized plan, as shown in this video throughout the 3 studies, can be built around you and your goals and can lead to better outcomes. Now, I hope you enjoyed this video and found some of these studies as insightful as I did. If you're looking to learn more about how to improve your retirement, I have right here 5 tested and proven ideas that will reshape your retirement. Click here to learn more, and always remember, you don't need more money, you need a better plan. Thanks for watching.